All right, range fans, we're back on the range again today with the Colt Delta Elite. You know what that means? That's 10mm testing. I've loaded up some of my own loads, thanks to the guys over at the 10mm Forum, to see if we can develop the perfect general purpose all-around 10mm load that is loaded with accurate number 9 and 200 grain gold dot, as well as BE86 and 200 grain gold dot. That's right, folks. I said 200 grain gold dot. Thanks to KenK over at 10mm Forum, I was able to get these gold dots, load them up. We're going to put them across the chronograph and see how they perform, and then we're going to test them in the ballistics gel. But I'm not only here with the Colt Delta Elite, I'm also here with self-defense. We're going to use the Colt Delta Elite as the overall general purpose pistol to test with, but then we're going to use the Smith & Wesson 610. I know it's a little on the heavy side, but it is a 3 7/8" barrel that we're going to test with for self-defense purposes. And then we're going to move on to the Ruger Blackhawk 6.5" barrel for hunting purposes. So have we developed the ultimate 10mm round for hunting and urban self-defense carry? Let's put some rounds across the chronograph. We're averaging, or we want to accomplish, about 1,200 feet per second. Let's put these rounds across the chronograph and through some ballistics gel and see how it turns out. First up, the Colt Delta Elite, our general purpose handgun with the BE86 powder.
1,217. 1,192. 1,235. 1,232. 1,186.
Not bad. We're shooting for 1,200 feet per second. You guys have seen the numbers right around that. We'll show you the numbers. Next, we're going to move on to Colt Delta Elite with the accurate number 9. BE86 turned in some pretty respectable numbers out of the 5" barrel of the Colt Delta Elite. 5 shots fired across the chronograph, a minimum of 1,186 feet per second, with a maximum of 1,235 feet per second, with a spread of 49, an average of 1,212, and a standard deviation of 20. Next up, Colt Delta Elite, an accurate number 9. We're shooting for 1,200 feet per second, folks.
1,231. 1,266. 1,251. 1,240.
All right, both rounds proved to be pretty accurate downrange on target. As you can see, the accurate number 9 turned in greater velocity, but had a lot more recoil to it. I did like the feel of the BE86. It wasn't as snappy. The accurate number 9 load in the 5" barrel of the Colt Delta Elite turned in some pretty respectable numbers as well, with a little bit more velocity than the BE86 load. 5 shots across the chronograph, the minimum 1,231 feet per second, the maximum 1,266 feet per second, with a spread of 35, the average of 1,249, and a standard deviation of 13. The accurate number 9 load also turned in better spread and better standard deviation. I also noticed, though, with the accurate number 9 load, there was a great deal of more recoil, at least perceived felt recoil, from the accurate number 9 load, and potentially due to the increase in velocity. I will say this load is also somewhat compressed but not over the maximum load listed in the accurate loading manual. Okay, range fans, we're moving on to the Smith & Wesson 610 3 7/8 inch barrel with the BE86 across the chronograph. I'm only going to fire 4 shots to make sure I have 3 rounds left for each pistol to fire in the ballistics gel. BE86, Smith & Wesson 610.
1,226. 1,191. 1,214. 1,194.
Plenty accurate out of the somewhat short barrel of the Smith & Wesson 610, and also turned in good velocity. Now we're going to move on to the accurate number 9. The BE86 load out of the 3 7/8 inch barrel Smith & Wesson 610 turned in some great velocity for a shorter barrel compared to the 5-inch barrel of the Colt Delta Elite. There was 4 shots fired across the chronograph. The minimum was 1,191. The maximum was 1,226 with a spread of 35, an average of the 4 shots of 1,206, and a standard deviation of 4. Not bad for a 3 7/8 inch barrel. Now moving on to the accurate number 9 load. By the way, the BE86 out of the Smith & Wesson 610, the casings, the empty casings did eject fairly easy. We're going to move on to accurate number 9.
1,137. 1,160. 1,177. 1,158.
Now that's pretty interesting. You notice out of the 5-inch barrel, the accurate number 9 through the Colt Delta Elite turned in greater velocity than the BE86. But on this particular pistol out of the Smith & Wesson 610, it turned in lower velocity. The accurate number 9 load out of the Smith & Wesson 610 3 7/8 inch barrel seemed to have lost quite a bit of velocity. 4 shots across the chronograph, minimum 1,137 feet per second, maximum 1,177 feet per second, with a spread of 40, an average of 1,158 feet per second, and a standard deviation of 14. All right, range fans, I screwed up today. With this Ruger Blackhawk, you guys have seen the review over at dayattherange.com. You know that it comes with 2 cylinders. That's right, folks, 2 cylinders, 10 millimeter cylinder and also the 40 Smith & Wesson cylinder. Well, the last time I had this thing out on the range, I was testing 40 Smith & Wesson through the 6.5 inch Blackhawk that I call the Hunter. Well, guess what's still in it? That's right, the 40 Smith & Wesson cylinder. But that's okay. As you can see here behind me, I've got some fresh ballistics gel up front, and we're going to take the Colt Delta Elite along with the self-defense Smith & Wesson 610 3 7/8 inch barrel and put 2 rounds each from the BE86 and accurate number 9 loads through the ballistics gel and see how the Speer Gold Dot performs. Stay tuned and come back and join me for another episode with these same loads with the 10 millimeter cylinder next time in the Ruger Blackhawk. All right, folks, what we all been waiting for, Colt Delta Elite BE86 into clear ballistics gelatin. Oh man, that's pretty gnarly. Let's take a look at it. All right, check it out, folks. Right there, You have the entrance hole, and got the tail of the tape out. That gold dot starts opening up right away, probably about 1/2 inch, 1 inch mark, travels all the way through the clear ballistics gelatin. Wow, that gold dot comes to rest, folks, at 19 inches out of the Colt Delta Elite. Let's move on to the Smith & Wesson 610 BE86. Smith & Wesson 610 3 7/8 inch barrel, loaded with BE86. Let's get this measured with the tail of the tape. Smith & Wesson 610, about the same entrance hole. It opens up about the same and travels to, not all that clear, my clear ballistics gelatin today. That's from me continuing to reheat. That's not a flaw of the product, that's my doing. But the Smith & Wesson 610 comes in at 17.5 inches with the BE86. Moving on to the Colt Delta Elite, an accurate number 9. We're going to try to put these rounds a little higher in the block and see how it performs against BE86. There it is, folks. That's pretty much a clear shot out of the Colt Delta Elite, an accurate number 9 powder. Look how those petals folded back on itself. Comes in at about 18.5 inches. Now we're going to move on to the Smith & Wesson 610 BE86, last shot of the day. But stick around, we're going to show you the numbers at the end, as well as the rate retention of the Speer Gold Dot 200 grain and 10 millimeter. Smith & Wesson 610 with the accurate number 9. Let's put it through this clear ballistics gel. See how it does against the BE86 round. As to be expected, the Smith & Wesson 610 with the shorter barrel turned in less penetration than the Colt Delta Elite with the 5-inch barrel, but still it's devastating. There's the wound track. That's the Smith & Wesson 610 there on top. It's devastating, folks. And you can see they're a little tumbling, but the Smith & Wesson 610 with the accurate number 9 ends up right at 17 inches of clear ballistics gelatin penetration. Just about perfect. You put clothing, or you do the FBI test where there's clothing in front of the gel, there's sure to be less penetration. But stick around for the rate retention and also pictures of how the Speer Gold Dot performed in clear ballistics gelatin. Moving on to the final display of the Speer Gold Dot. Starting out with the Smith & Wesson 610 AA number 9, it penetrated 17 inches of clear ballistics gel, expanded to a perfect picture of .675, and retained a weight of 199.2 grains. Then you move on to the Smith & Wesson 610 in the BE86. It penetrated 17.5 inches of clear ballistics gel, retained a weight of 198.6 grain, and expanded again to a perfect picture of .702. Then we move on to the Colt Delta Elite with the BE86, which I believe we are running a little bit on the ragged edge based on the deformation of the petals on the right side of the picture there. But out of the Colt 5-inch barrel BE86, it penetrated 19 inches of clear ballistics gel, retained a weight of 199.2 grains, and expanded to .862. Then we move on again to the Colt Delta Elite, this time with the Accurate Arms number 9. It penetrated 18.5 inches of clear ballistics gelatin, retained a weight of 199 grains, and expanded to .761. Now, I know most of you are waiting for me to give out the loads that I use or constructed to perform this test. I'm going to ask you guys, since they aren't my loads, since I did work them up and frankly got some of the loads from the Shadow over at the 10mm forums, and got these Speer Gold Dot bullets from KenK or KenK over at the 10mm forums. I'm going to ask you guys to come over and join us at the 10mm forum to get the precise loads and measurements that I used during this testing. Mr. Revolver Guy, dayattherange.com.